he used to stamp on that and see how far he could make it go round. So if he stamped on your foot, it's the end. We've all stamped, we've all hit a toe on the bed at night and gone, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
5 of your toes instantly broken. End of story.
Yeah.
So that kind of functionality just wasn't in the martial arts.
Yeah.
You know? So he got into the guy's mind psychologically, then did it physically. Obviously, Brucey was an amazing kicker, but you don't kick a kicker.
Sure.
You don't punch it, which is what the Gracies, you know.
Yeah.
So he was the first to use his brain, and as you said, as a philosopher, his self-help ethos was amazing. That was his strongest thing. He was the best martial artist ever, but he was even stronger. Krishnamurti's one of his things he studied. Krishnamurti said you have to be a candle that strikes its own flame. True. You know, what if we wait to be loved and no one ever says I love you? Does it make you feel worthless? If no one ever says well done. Some people need to be I love you, need well done. But Bruce Lee said you've got to be self-sufficient. Not who you're supposed to be. Yeah,
no, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I was recollecting an instance then I had once where I was at, it's just going back some years, but I was in a bar and I hadn't really been drinking an awful lot, but there was a kind of a rowdy bunch towards the right of me, you know, usual pack of guys just kind of showing off. And I you know, like as you get older, I've always been very observant. I'm quite a placid person, so I spend most of my time watching people all the time. And obviously, and I've kind of I work in like health and social care in my day job, and a lot of that is just observations. It's just watching things, so you get used to it. But I remember being out, and there was this really rowdy guy, and you can tell who the kind of big guy is in amongst the crowd. Sometimes it's very easy, but I could tell at some point he was getting closer and closer, and I thought, oh, you know, there's gonna be something happen here. So anyway, he started on one of my friends, and he was just, you know, doing all the whole shouting, aggressive body language, very much. And I thought, like, well, he's completely drunk, like. And then I thought back to some training that I'd done years and years ago, which was about how you can throw people off just by saying things out of context. And I remember going up to him, and I thought, if I do this confidently, this probably work, because he wasn't going to leave my friend alone. I just went up to him. I was like, You painted my door blue. You painted my door blue. And he was just like, what's this guy talking about? I was like, you painted my door blue. And he just was like, because of the context.
Took away somewhere totally,
He was totally different. And it allowed us that breathing space for him to go to one side and him just be sitting there like, what is this guy talking about? But because you're kind of in control yourself, you can kind of handle it. And it's interesting, like a lot of those things that you can use, but not all the time people know that they're good tools to use as well. Like, especially when someone is strongly aggressive, but just that little thing, just throwing somebody off, context of thought. Yeah, it does work. Just to pick up on some of your points, like with the UFC stuff, with the martial arts, it's interesting because obviously YouTube's come around. And you see just everything on there now. Like you can actually watch a street fight half the time. You type in man fighting man.
Amazing.
And it's crazy because then you realise the amount of people that actually don't know how to fight. And, you know, you've got punches going all over the place and they're not looking where they're hitting half the time. And it's like, oh, my God. And it's quite a funny thing to see because, again, back in the day, films and movies was pretty much it. That was what you perceived would maybe happen in most of these instances. And then you watch a fight and you think, well, actually, it lasts about a couple of seconds most times because once one guy's down, that's normally it. It doesn't carry on and on and on. But do you think with the genre of films, just to finish up on films here, do you think that's, especially in China, I would say, because I'm not so familiar with it now, but in terms of how they make films, have they changed or do they still keep to that certain code and philosophy with how they used to do movie making in martial arts?
Well, I've one of my friends, he's a really successful Hong Kong producer. He did the sequel to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Right.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
I did a film for Logan. I was the Baymark Hong Kong stunt team. There's still the traditional martial arts films. Lots of wire work.
Yeah.
Graceful.
Yeah.
Then there's the other stuff like the Raid and the Block. All these things so like on back, you know, the Thai boxer. So you've still got both of those markets. They love traditional, still there, and the other side of it. So they're sort of the yin and the yang in combat now. He might be totally into reality, but he realizes in films you have to kick people in the head, even though he says it's a stupider kick in the head, it's to punch in the toe. You have to strike that balance. And I find the films and stuff I've done, it will be over in a second if you like, which you can't
of course.
You know. So there's still the two sides to the classical martial arts and the balletic side, which there has to be. You can't all be Conor McGregor getting.
Unlike you, I mean, a film is a film at the end of the day. It's not supposed to always project real life, and that's why we go and watch it for a bit of fun and, you know, a bit of an action type stuff. I mean, I would imagine there's a whole niche of audience that would just love films to be how they used to be coming out of China, just that whole level of style. Because again, it's
smart, isn't it? It was great.
Yeah, it's something unique and it's very different at the time. For you, is there any particular fights that you've seen on in films that you particularly enjoy? Is there any? I'm interested to know from someone with your background if there's anything that stands out as something that you enjoy watching, and why that is, whether it's realistic or not. Is there anything that springs to mind?
I think apart from the obviously Bruce Lee films, there was a brilliant fight scene years ago with Jackie Chan and Benio Des.
Yeah.
And they did a fight that was incredible.
Yeah.
You know? And it went on for a long time. And I think I admire the fights that people do where the camera doesn't just cut all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
You could see the entire body of Bruce, and he would do sequences that lasted, you know, like 18 moves or 20 moves. Thing where you punch, comes into the camera and boom. I don't know those kind of fights, but anyone who can do that and sustain the control and not just smash pieces. Some of the film, when I got with Bay Logan, we did a martial arts film, and I'm not going to name names, but a couple of the actors there didn't think anything of just smashing you to pieces. You see, there's lots of talcum powder in the old films. So talcum powder comes up and looks more powerful. We don't need this now. We got camera angles, but you know, now and again, it's good to see. You think it must have hurt. That's why I used to work with Bob Wall. I met Bob Wall, the guy with the beard, Enter the Dragon. And Bruce Lee used to really kick him for real. You know, and the kick where Bruce kicks him through all those people and into the dragon. Did you know the story behind that? Did you hear about Bob Wall cut Bruce's hands open?
No, I've heard bits and pieces, but I don't know the full. Go on, I'd love to hear it though.
Well, also, I'll tell you another bit about Bob. I was a guest at a convention. I guest at conventions now, Star Trek and Star magazines. And I didn't used to respect Bob Wall because when Bruce Lee passed away, Bob Wall did a few articles. I could have beaten Bruce. Bruce was frightened to let
I'd read some of those. Yeah.
And I was at this Hollywood convention, and I was sitting there, and I looked to my left, and 4 tables down, Bob Wall. Bob Wall.
Right.
So, the Bruce Lee person in me, the instructor, forget the actor, you know. I walked up to Bob Wall, and I stood right side forward. Bob came around the front of me. He's 71 then. He's got sewn in hair. And he came around the front of his desk, and I said to him, "My name's John Carrigan, Bob, and I'm a Jeet Kune Do instructor." And I pointed at him. I said, "You know something about Jeet Kune Do, don't you, Bob?" Mr. Antagonist. And he said, "Oh, Japanese. Oh, Sensei." And he bowed to me. And I bowed to him. He said, "Give me a hug. Give me a hug, buddy. Bruce was a god." A bit like you say about diffusing things, right? And I spent 3 days talking to Bob Wall. Totally diffused it. And he said, he admitted years ago when Bruce went, he said, "I used to talk shit," you know.
I guess it was that to just sort of make his own self and then get hired in places and conventions, like you say.
They piss on someone's tree to make theirs grow.
Sure,
you know? And it's associated with Bruce Lee. And during this time, I got to know him. You know, the animal in me disappeared. And I said to him, on Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee had some challenges, didn't he? Yeah. And I said, "Bob, you were there." He said, "Yeah, I saw them all." So over lunch, he sat and told me the challenges that Bruce saw Bruce do. and what made him so in awe of Bruce Lee.
Sure.
In reality, the first two guys, he had 3 challenges. But to hear it from somebody, first 2 challenges, Bruce Lee played with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
He punched to the guy's lip, just cut his lip aside without taking his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
This was amazing. Did all this. The guy was really trying, and there was a massive guy up on the wall. Big wall. There's a big in Han's tournament, Enter Dragons, a big long wall.
Yeah.
And Bruce was in his white top for these scenes. He was going to do with Bob Wall, and this guy started shouting stuff at Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept looking up at him and trying to ignore him. Then he said something in Cantonese or whatever. He said, and Bruce Lee said, "Come down." And John Saxon was with, Jim Kelly and Bob Wall. John Saxon said, "Oh shit! Look at the size of this guy." And he was really big, like a bolo.
Sure. Yeah.
And he said, and he mouthed off to Bruce a few more times. And while they were talking, all of a sudden the guy shot a big punch at Bruce, and Bruce pulled his head back. He said, and Bruce had this big bouffant hairstyle. He said, and you see it almost touch Bruce Lee's hair. And the change in Bruce was, he said, you could feel the change. His face blanked out. There was no expression. He said, in Jeet Kune Do, we put the dominant side forward. Usually, in boxing, if you're right-handed, you put left side forward. Jeet Kune Do is like a sword fencing thing. So we've got the strong side forward. So Bruce always advocated the lead side. But Bob Wall said all of a sudden this guy went to move towards Bruce, and Bruce did a rear stamp kick that you never even saw coming. He hit the chest. He said, and he flew against, to hear Bob Wall saying this, I'm eating everything up, He said the guy smashed against the wall. Bruce had followed him. He said he did 3 chain punches, straight blast. There, certain punches. He said you couldn't even see him move. He said the guy's face exploded. Then the guy swung his arm round to try and get Bruce in a headlock or whatever. Bruce put his arm over the top of the guy's arm, came underneath it, put the back of his hand on the guy's chest, walked his body to the right, snapped the guy's elbow.
Wow.
He said, took a step back. He said, and broke his knee with a side kick. The guy, he said, hit the floor, and all of us, he said, were in total shock. But he said to Bruce, or did to Bruce, then Bruce grabbed the guy's gi, stopped his fist, didn't close it, and started slapping around the face, saying, "Who's the actor now?" He said, blood was spurting up all over Bruce Lee's. He said, were dumbfounded. Then Bruce turned, nodded, and they took the guy away, broken leg, broken face. He said, and Bruce looked at us, and all of us had never seen this Bruce Lee before. We'd seen the faithful Bruce, the lovely, he said, and it was devastating. He said, so today I realised anything we'd seen him do was a cat playing with a ball of wool. He said the real Bruce Lee had a darkness in him when he needed to, and an efficiency. So that's the story coming from Bob. Sorry to suddenly get
No, that was good. That was good. Enjoyed.
The scene,
crazy.
The Bob Wall bottles. Bruce kicks bottles out of Bob Wall's hands. And in this scene, he does an inside crescent kick and then supposed to spin round and put a back fist across his face. Bruce didn't put a lot of whack power into the first kick. Bob didn't drop the bottle. And as Bruce spun round with his fist, he jammed the bottle into Bruce Lee's hand. Bruce thought he did it on purpose. He had to have 15 stitches in his hands and 2 weeks off the film set. He then told Robert Klaus, the director, in the next scene, I'm going to execute Bob Wall. I'm going to kill Bob Wall. So we didn't do that. He said he's going to die in front of him. It's ridiculous when you hear this, isn't it? The big slow motion sidekick Bruce Lee was going to do, kick him. When you do these things, if you do it from close, it becomes a push. If you do it so your leg just extends and it's virtually straight when it hits someone, it explodes. Bruce Lee used to have, could hold a plank of wood, 2 inches planks, drop it and shatter it before it hits the floor. Knocking it. Snapping his kicks. So he was going to explode Bob Wall's body. But Robert Klaus said to him, Bruce, we'll throw the film away. So Bruce Lee kicked Bob Wall from closer, pushed him all through these people, broke the stuntman's arm, and it was averted. But that's just all these things you hear when you get, in the inner circle.
There's a big thing with that as well.